Yes, I think Bibi is completely evil and completely destructive. He's using the United States, its economy, and its military power for his own ends. I'm very interested in how American leaders could betray their own country. That enrages me. But the real blame lies with us. Why are we allowing this?
Tucker Carlson just blasted Israel and Netanyahu for exploiting the United States. And in this clip, he gets into the twisted and toxic nature of the U.S.-Israeli alliance, but also explains why he puts more blame on the atrocities and the negatives of that relationship on U.S. politicians rather than Israeli politicians. So let's get right into this. Please like the video and subscribe to the channel.
I know you don't think of yourself like brave, but you're somebody who's been speaking truth way before you ever got fired. Like, you started speaking truth way before that. You must have lost some friends when you started doing that.
Well, I've lost so many friends. Yeah, I've lost a lot of friends. And particularly on the Israel question, I've never talked about Israel. I'm not a hater of Israel. Certainly not a hater of Jews. Always had a million Jewish friends. I still do have some. But Netanyahu is really hurting the United States and the world. It's completely out of control. And I have, for years not said anything about it. I've thought that for a very long time, over 20 years, 25 years. And so I've always had that view, but I've kept it to myself because it's not worth it. But we've been pushed so hard and used so much by him that it's just terrible for the country that I grew up in. And so I've said something, and you do that, and people you really had dinner with and really liked are all of a sudden denouncing you as a Nazi or whatever. And I never wanted that, and it makes me sad now.
Yeah, I would say friends who denounce you as Nazi for your honest opinion are not really friends.
I think that's right. And I should say I've lost one real friend in the past 10 years, one actual friend, and I feel it's painful for me. And it wasn't about Israel, but we just diverged politically, and he could not be friends with me. So that makes me sad. But in general, people you lose are people I really liked, were great, I had meals with, hilarious, interesting, nice people, actually, most of them. But they were not real friends. That's true.
Yeah, I mean, this is interesting. Tucker is right about this schism on the right and how it's creating dividing lines. Sometimes it is personal. I trust his view that he's felt this for a long time but hasn't expressed it, because this is a serious career calculation on the right, especially it was, say 10 years ago, 25 years ago. If you had real non-interventionist views toward Israel, you were just a pariah. Anyone from Ron Paul to Pat Buchanan, and there weren't much more than that in Washington, can tell you that was the truth, that you became a total pariah, a total target for the establishment that was Zionist, Israel first to the core, if you expressed those views. And Tucker Carlson, leaving Fox, getting fired from Fox in 2022 is a lot different from a young Tucker Carlson on Crossfire in 2002. That span of development made Tucker Carlson a trusted and known commodity. And it is true, he only really started to criticize Israel openly after October 7th. Actually, soon after October 7th, he said, we cannot let this spill into a greater war in the Middle East with U.S. support. And from there became more and more critical of Israel. Now, is that as early as, what all critics of Israel, including me, would have wanted? No. But that's tangible because it's the most influential figure on the right doing that. Tucker Carlson joins Candace Owens in doing that. Candace Owens, had the gall to say genocide is wrong no matter who does it, and that was her top crime to the Zionists, by the way, saying that obvious statement. So that's where we're at in American politics.
I didn't want to even mention him in this interview at all, but why do you think a foreign leader, Netanyahu, I'm talking about him, what's the secret here? It seems like, you got to step up your patriotism, Tucker. Like, he's more in love with the U.S. than you are. What the hell is going on here? I mean, guy comes out and tells us how worried he is about us and how much I don't think he pledges this love to Israel as many times that he has done to the U.S. I don't know how Israelis feel about that. But what's the deal with this guy?
He's using the United States, its economy, and its military power for his own ends. By the way, he's hardly the only foreign leader who's tried to do that or wanted to do that, of course. That's not only common, it's generally the rule. What's remarkable to me is how effective he's been at that and how contemptuous he is.
I think he shocked himself. I don't know if you've seen this video of him. He asked the journalist to turn off the camera, and the journalist kind of, left it running. And he goes, 80% of Americans, this is an old one, 80% of Americans support us. It's absurd. So he's also surprised. Did you know?
I think that's right. And he has real contempt for the United States
and
100%, for Christianity
100%.
especially.
Yeah, that's true, and he's a master manipulator. He uses U.S. and the threat of U.S. insecurity, which is absurd, to promote his own foreign policy ambitions in the Middle East and the Greater Israel Project. The latest way he's doing it is, check this out. He's saying that Iran is developing a nuclear missile and wants to draw the U.S. back into more military conflict with Iran. Interviewed by the top neocon in the country, Ben Shapiro, with him saying that this missile could put New York City, Boston, Washington, or Miami under their atomic guns, and saying it's only a matter of time. We knew this was going to happen. This is his strategy. Get the U.S. to bankroll all of his foreign policy exploits, regime change operations, the genocide in Gaza, etc. He's a true criminal, but it goes way deeper than Netanyahu. So if I was talking to Tucker, I'd say this mentality is pervasive in his entire administration, his entire coalition. Do you think it stops with him? No. It goes to Israel Katz and Ben Gvir and Smotrich and the others who are supportive of this madness and lunacy. If he's deposed, someone else will take his place unless they are seriously diminished in their power and control, and just the unconditional bankroll of the U.S.
Which is very galling. I mean, lots of people have contempt for the United States,
right,
and lots of people have contempt for Christianity. Again, he's not alone in that. But the fact that we're supporting him and his government to the extent that we are, floating the whole thing
right,
to the tune of many, many billions. It's not $3 billion a year. It's tens of billions a year.
It's not really him either. Like, if I was a foreign country leader and I could drive the United States, and what's wrong with us is the question. What is wrong with us?
I couldn't agree more. I think that's a really smart. I mean, one of the problems that I have with anti-Semitism, well, the core problem I have is that I'm a Christian, and I think God created everybody, and I don't think you can hate a group, period.
Right.
So we're not allowed to do that. So that's the problem I have. But the other problem I have with anti-Semitism is that it's a dodge. It's a dodge. It's a way of passing responsibility from yourself to somebody else. And the truth is, yes, I think Bibi is completely evil and completely destructive.
Absolutely.
He's not the only world leader who's evil and destructive, by the way, again, but he is. And he's hurting the United States, and he's destroying his own country, and I think he imperils the world. Okay, so I think that clearly they're going to try and blow up Al-Aqsa Mosque. I believe that, on the Temple Mount to build a third temple, and then you've got global war. So, he's a threat. There's no question he's a threat to the...
Yeah, this is right, and it goes to something that Max Blumenthal often talks about, is that Israel actually doesn't despise anti-Semitism. Anti-Semitism is their greatest tool for propaganda to pin all the blame of criticisms of Israel on Jew hatred, which is so untrue, especially considering, as I often say on this channel, the best critics of Israel, many of them are Jewish. You got Glenn Greenwald and Norman Finkelstein and Max Blumenthal and Dave Smith and Aaron Matte and Katie Halper. There's more and more and more. Noam Chomsky, critics of Israel that are Jewish, and you still have this mantra being used successfully in some circles by Netanyahu, conflating anti-Zionism and with anti-Semitism. It's absurd. It's pushed from the mainstream, from the legacy media, from the ADL, always, right? And that's a tool for the Israeli regime. So it's not as if the Israel Firsters and Zionists actually hate anti-Semitism as much as they purport.
Trump administration, no question. But am I madder at him or Lindsey Graham? It's not even close.
I was going to mention...
Bibi Netanyahu is a foreigner, and he's trying to do what he thinks he should do for himself and his country. I get that. What's Lindsey Graham's excuse? What's Ted Cruz's excuse? Ted Cruz says right into the camera, I was elected, my main goal was to help Israel. Really?
When Ted Cruz
How could you get elected on a platform in which you say publicly, my main goal is to help another country? This is deranged. Where's our self-respect?
Yeah, that's true. That interview was bonkers, especially after Ted Cruz, 3 minutes before that or something, had said, I made it my effort and my prerogative to be the most pro-Israel senator, but you're obsessed with Israel. I think our discussions of Israel is kind of downstream from your obsession with Israel and funneling all the money you can into the vile war criminal Netanyahu's coffers for this criminal rogue state regime that sucks us into wars and, you know, continues its Israel first expansionist style to our detriment. The U.S. citizens don't gain any benefit from this nonsense. That's never even articulated. Notice that Cruz in that interview didn't even try to articulate a benefit that the U.S. gets from this relationship. Why? Because he can't. It's indefensible and it's one-sided. Now, I would ask Tucker to go farther and say, what about Trump? He sides with the Israel lobby. He got us into this war with Iran. Thankfully, he took the off-ramp when Iran showed that the neocon propaganda was wrong, and Iran wasn't going to try to knock, you know, Israel off the map. They weren't going to try to kill as many U.S. soldiers in the region as they could. Thankfully, that off-ramp was taken, and that's a better scenario than what could have unfolded. But now we're in a clash with Iran, and Netanyahu's clamoring for more intervention now. Maybe he'll get it. Maybe Trump won't accept it, but maybe the next U.S. president will. So this runs farther than Ted Cruz and Lindsey Graham, too, with Miriam Adelson giving Trump $100 million and Trump doing everything he can to embroil the U.S. in Israel's affairs, moving the U.S. embassy to Jerusalem, tearing up the JCPOA, pardoning Jonathan Pollard's handler, exacerbating the war in Syria in his first term. The list goes on and on and on.
So no, I am way more angry at my leaders than I am at Netanyahu. It's not even close. I don't want to even think about Netanyahu. I'm not interested. I'm very interested in how American leaders could betray their own country. That enrages me. And I just want to say it again. I think anti-Semitism very often is a way to pass the buck. It's their fault. And you see this not just with anti-Semitism, but with this like lunacy about Russia, it was Russian interference, or, you know, some foreigners always to blame. And maybe there's some truth in all of that. But the real blame lies with us. Why are we allowing this?
So true. And I wish more people were talking like that, who have the platforms and the means to do so, but they are not. And that's crazy to me.
Why? Because it's so obviously true.
It is obvious. Yeah.
I can't control Bibi Netanyahu. I can certainly have an effect in the United States.
Yeah,
I can say, you cannot re-elect Ted Cruz. You cannot re-elect Lindsey Graham. Not because they're evil. I'm not even saying they are, but because they've betrayed their most basic commitment, which is to our country, right, above all others. I mean,
yeah, they have done that. I would go further and say they are evil. They're responsible for massive bloodshed. What wars did they ever want out of? Ted Cruz even voted for 81 billion or 61 billion, I can't remember, for Ukraine. And he's a right-winger, right? And he was on the wrong side of that issue. Same with Lindsey Graham, too. Lindsey Graham supports Ukraine to the core, but neither of those two have seen a war that they don't want a part of. They are military, industrial, complex stooges that will push that forever. Now, this point stands, though. I think this point that Elizabeth and Tucker are making is very good, that you have to point the most blame on U.S. politicians for selling us out. We can have problems with the Israeli regime. Of course we do. They're vile war criminals. But that just makes it even worse for our politicians, our elected officials, to support them in that. What does it say about them? That's an ultimate betrayal of the electoral will of the American people. If you care about that sort of thing, if you believe in, democracy, that your government is reflective of your interests, it's clearly not the case in the U.S. and majority rule votes, expand wars all the time. But just for humanitarianism and decency and empirical and economic reasons and, for reason that it will compound the debt and create inflation, the invisible tax, we should oppose this. It's leading to PTSD with soldiers that come back from these crises, often on the behest of Israel and Syria and Libya and Afghanistan and Iraq. Not in Afghanistan as much, but Iraq for sure. And it's just like passed off like this is nothing. Like this is just human nature. It's a law of nature that this happens because we need to serve Israel's interests in the region. No, our American politicians are duplicitous for engaging in that.
I mean, I don't know why that's not complicated at all.
Well, I think I know the answer to that. Like, have you looked at resumes of congressmen and senators? Yeah. Like, you're more qualified to be there and I'm more qualified to be there than they are.
No,
it's
I know.
Crazy.
I know.
And then you have like Ted Cruz. You mentioned Ted Cruz. Ted Cruz was supposed to be the smart one. Was supposed to be. What the heck is going on here?
Well, I mean, I think Ted has, it's really interesting because I see, when I look at Ted, who I've known for long before I got into politics, and I've known him well, and there are things about him I like, but I see a mirror almost, like I see, so the problem with Ted Cruz is he has a high verbal IQ. He is very fluent with the language, and I am also, so, and everyone in our business is. And you see the same pitfalls every time. If you are a good talker, you convince yourself that you're a genius because you hear yourself talk and you're like, man, I'm smart. But there is a huge difference between the ability to explain something or fluency with English and wisdom, like true wisdom. And these people, all of this happened to me. They get incredibly arrogant.
Yeah, you can see that with Cruz through and through. He's a lawyer by trade, and it's not escaping the imagination that that's the case. And I think this is a great observation, maybe Tucker's best observation in this entire video, and for Tucker to have the humility to say, hey, this happened to me at one point. I mean, that says something about his character and integrity too. So I think this is right on the mark. People are skilled and intelligent in various things that can't put together the right outcome or result that you should follow as a U.S. elected official. There's been plenty of smooth talkers that have gone down the road to hell with the American power and the military-industrial complex obsession, the war building, the empire building, etc. He's right.
And they think they're smarter than they are. They think they're wiser than they are. And that's why he did the interview with me. He's like, I'm a brilliant debater. You're not really, actually.
You destroyed the guy.
You're kind of, well, because he's not very smart.
No, he's not.
At all. At all. I mean, I know people, especially here, I was just literally outside talking to one of them who I work with here in our very rural town, who is so dyslexic he can barely speak English. He's a native English speaker. But man, if I have a problem, I'd call him first because he has such deep wisdom. He's like twice as smart as Ted Cruz. So don't mistake verbal intelligence for the sort of intelligence that matters, because it's not the same.
Yeah, I got to agree, and I think Elizabeth Lane did a great job interviewing Tucker. I wasn't very familiar with her at all before this, but I was, pleasantly surprised with her level of knowledge on the Israel issue, that leaked video from Netanyahu, etc. So definitely follow her in the link below. I think that this is indicative of the schism you see on the American right with Israel, certainly so. We're seeing more and more people stop trying to defend this nonsense. Hopefully this ceasefire will hold. I have my doubts. We've talked about that on this channel. But Tucker really is at the forefront of exposing some of the worst things about the U.S.-Israeli relationship from a right-wing, from an America First perspective. And I just think he does such a service in that regard, because dissident leftists have long abandoned the pro-Israel cause. Thankfully so. I think they were heroic for that. But the American right is finally starting to see acceptable behavior in that regard, that it's acceptable to do that because of figures like Tucker and Candace Owens, and even Dave Smith, who's a libertarian, but at the same time, he's more of a right-leaning libertarian like I am. So this is a very positive trajectory for the U.S. Tucker's exactly right. I think the best points that he brought up pertain to, hey, we can have hostilities and believe this foreign regime is run by evil people, and it is, by the way. But what does that say about our U.S. officials that support it, that bankroll it, that are beholden to the Israel lobby, that just bend down and kiss Netanyahu's feet and then go to Jerusalem and kiss the wall? What does it say about them? What does it say about their prioritization of issues and its complete negligence of their supposed constituents? But we're not their constituents. Their constituents are Raytheon, Lockheed Martin, AIPAC, Pfizer, Bank of America, and that's the truth. But what do you guys think? Let me know down below. Is Tucker Carlson right about this? Is Elizabeth right in her questioning on it? Please like the video, subscribe to the channel. Also subscribe to Elizabeth Lane, and if you like this video, please consider becoming a YouTube member. If you click the join button below, you can help support me. I'd really appreciate that, and in return I'll give you access to all of my videos before they go live to the general public on YouTube. Those are members only videos right now. And until I see you guys next time, no more war, no more debt, no more inflation, and no more empire. Peace out, guys. Catch you in the next one.